welcome or welcome back if you've seen any of my other videos. Today I have kind of a fun one, at least fun for me. I'm going to be talking about 9 books you should read if you're a fan of Sally Rooney, like 98% of the population is. I know Sally Rooney and Normal People, Conversations with Friends have really been super popular within the book community, and of course I love them as well, and I'm constantly looking for other reads that kind of give me similar feeling or evoke some of the same themes, and it's honestly hard to find. Sally Rooney is a great writer and there's a lot to live up to, but I think these books actually really do live up to the kind of almost genre she's turning into. How I would characterize the Sally Rooney almost tropes are basically white girls who can't communicate and have a bit of a superiority complex, which is definitely present in most of these books, but I feel like some of them at least have a bit of a twist. But honestly, I feel like, you know, it's basic, but I still love it. Anyways, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get started on these because there are some really fantastic books in here. And the first one, which probably everyone has already heard of already, but I just could not do this video and not mention it. It's Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And to be honest, I fully bought this book solely on the cover. Like, I had no idea what it was about. I just seen it all over Bookstagram and was like, I need this on my shelves. I had zero expectations of what the actual book was going to be. So I went into it completely just not knowing anything and kind of low expectations, to be honest. Like, I figured, you know, just with a cover and book jacket like this, I'm like, oh, it's just a pretty cover, like there's not gonna be any substance inside. But wow, was I wrong. This book, like right from the get-go, just had me so hooked, and I feel like the characters and the voice that comes through like throughout the novel is just so Sally Rooney-esque, and like follows kind of tragic characters who are, you know, all going through their own stuff, but and like kind of like a toxic romance that you never know, you know, where it's gonna end up. And yeah, I think definitely what made this the most like Normal People and Sally Rooney's other books is just the writing style. I don't know, it's one that I personally really vibe with, and I thought it was fun. And kind of the main character, Cleo, reminds me a bit of Marianne. I think just has kind of that, I don't know, the like tortured soul, but is like an academic, you know, or I don't even know if she was. I think she's an artist in this. But yeah, just that kind of vibe. But oh, it was so good. I gave this one, I think, 5 stars when I read it. In this case, judge the book by its cover, because the beauty on the outside matches the beauty on the inside. This next one I'm excited to talk about because I think it's one that maybe not as many people will know about, but it was a really fantastic story, and actually the author was one of my professors when I was doing my master's, so I mean I'm maybe slightly biased, but actually the book itself is really good. And that's Milk Teeth by Jessica Andrews. I mean, she's a great person, and I was really lucky to be taught by her. But even just this novel, I believe it's her second, was just fantastic. Like, the writing style is really unique. Like, it's more told in like shorter vignette kind of style rather than like, you know, the traditional chapters that you would see. And it's sort of a romance, but more I think about like the main character, who I believe is unnamed, like just their life. They're a lot about their family backstory, and part of it is set in London, part is set in Barcelona. Like, it really jumps all over the place timing wise and place wise, and but somehow it really still just all goes together. But I think the main character of it is kind of Sally Rooney-esque. I don't know, just the whole, and like the way they communicate and the dialogue I think is very similar. If you are a fan of the Sally Rooney writing style, I think you will really like this, and it'll be like similar but different enough that it, you know, expands expands your horizons. But yeah, also this cover is like really cool, by the way. Again, another one that I solely bought because I loved the cover. I saw this book in a bookstore, and I was with my friends, and I was just about to move back to Canada, and I was like, I don't have any room in my suitcase to buy more books. I'm not getting it. Then literally 2 days later, I saw it again at another bookstore, and I'm like, okay, I have to buy it. Like, it's just, you know, I'm just so, for some reason, drawn to this cover. And that is The Trio by Johanna Hedman. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, I'm not sure. But I was like immediately sold as soon as I read on the back. It says, "The trio is the love child of normal people and Brideshead Revisited." And I'm like, okay, one of my favorite classics and one of my favorite contemporary novels. Like, I can't, like, this book is perfect for me. And it was so great. I mean, I cannot believe this is a debut. Like, the writing is just so stunning and nuanced, and again, it's one of those books that kind of borders on pretentious, but the writing is just so beautiful that like you don't even care. This one is kind of the Sally Rooney-esque, but make it a throuple, so kind of a twist. But yeah, I just like, for the cover alone, I was like, oh my god, I have to have this. Like, zero expectations, and I was completely wowed. There's like, I've bookmarked so many pages on here with just like stunning writing. And again, this one is kind of like, I think most of it is set in Stockholm, but it also, you know, veers to London for a bit and Paris. So, you know, it's like fun to read about all these cool European destinations. Again, 3 people who are very intellectual and can't communicate. The next one is a little bit of a toss-up. I was wondering if I should include this or not, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and do it because it has some connection, I think. Maybe a bit of a stretch. Anyways, but the next one I want to talk about is Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. I really enjoyed this novel. I think, again, the writing style is really similar to Sally Rooney. I just think this one, I guess it has a similar connection to Normal People in that the main characters were like, they knew each other through childhood, and it's kind of like they've had a lot of near misses in their love story. And again, I wouldn't necessarily categorize this as a love story because, you know, lots is going on. But yeah, and I think it's just more of like a different stage of life. Like, I don't know if I would necessarily categorize Sally Rooney's style or genre, I guess. I'm referring to it as a genre now because it's, you know, that big. But slightly more young adult. Like, I guess her characters are more either like in university kind of thing, and I guess her third novel, like The Beautiful World, that was sort of a slightly older age group. But honestly, not trying to be controversial, but that one was not my favorite. I mean, it was still good, but like it could not compare to her other 2 in my opinion. But anyway, so I think this, I would say, has sort of similar vibes of Normal People, like Marianne and Connell's relationship, as in they were like, you know, they'd known each other for a while. Also not great communication skills. But, and I think this one also too, there's like a big focus on mental health, which I think is important and is one of the big themes in Sally Rooney's writing. So yeah, it was a really good read, and I think definitely emotional at some parts. But yeah, I would for sure recommend reading this one. The next one that I think Sally Rooney readers would love is Lustre by Raven Leilani. This one is a relatively recent read for me, and I'm so happy I finally got to it because it's been on my shelf for ages. But yeah, and I literally read this all in one sitting on an airplane. It was really good. It kind of is giving me conversations with friends vibe, in that it's like involves a younger woman getting into like a sort of like unconventional, I would say, relationship with a married couple. But I feel like there's also like a really cool twist on this one. This one was really interesting because it added like a few more unique layers of like race and class and just like more nuance in that retrospect, which I think was maybe missing from Conversations with Friends. Honestly, I haven't read it in a while, so I could be misremembering. But yeah, I really loved this one, and I can't believe this one was also, I believe, a debut. The writing in it was great. And it's a bit of a shorter read too, which is kind of nice. Like this one, this version of the book, for some reason they just made the pages like really big. I don't really understand. But yeah, it was one that once I started I could not put down, and I would definitely recommend this if you were a big Conversations with Friends fan. This next one people probably may have heard of or have either read already, but I figure I'll just mention it anyway, and that's Dolly Alderton's Ghosts. Although actually people might not have read Ghosts. I know she kind of blew up with I think it's Everything I Know About Love was her really popular book, which I haven't got to yet, but I hopefully will at some point. But I watched the BBC show, and if you liked the Normal People and Conversations with Friends show, you will definitely love Everything I Know About Love, so definitely look out for that one. But Ghosts is a great one, because again, it follows like the main character, who I think is named Nina. She's, going in and out of, different relationships, kind of their communication issues with some of them. And yeah, just trying to find her place in the world as an adult. And I believe she's also a food writer, so that's kind of fun. But just also like things going on in the background with her family. And yeah, I just think the writing style of this is great. And like balances really well humor with kind of the more heavier sad parts. Really great writing in this one for sure. Okay, on to the last three. Here we go. This next one I almost hesitate to recommend just because of some of the content in it was, not gonna lie, a little bit triggering for me, and I think that was probably just because I didn't read the content warnings before, and so I definitely recommend doing that with this one. But that's Milk Fed by Melissa Broder. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, this book, I thought it was written exquisitely, and I think it had a lot of really great moments to it, which I think if Sally Rooney lovers would appreciate. And I still liked it. I think I ended up rating it like 4 stars or maybe 3.5. But my only wish is that if you do read this book, please read the content warnings before, just because it really goes into detail about like food habits and disordered eating habits, and I didn't know that going into it, and I think it just, with how in depth it goes into that, it's really interesting for sure, but it was just a lot to go into being unaware of, of like having context with it. Like I think if I'd known, then it wouldn't have been as, I don't want to keep saying triggering, but it kind of was, and it was like really emotional. But I think in a way, like the emotion is good, like it means that the writing is evoking something. But I think I just wish I had been warned a little bit, because I feel like I see this book all the time on like Bookstagram and like on BookTube and stuff, but I never had really heard so much what it was about. And then yeah, when I started reading it, so I think definitely look up content warnings before you read it. But if you're okay and you think that you're mentally like in the headspace where you can read something like this, then I think this book is definitely worth checking out because it does have a lot of really valuable things to say. And it's also kind of interspersed with some saucy moments. Got some good queer representation in here, which there's just so many good things in this book which is why I'm still sort of recommending it, but I think I'm just like be warned about some of the content because it's heavy for sure. So yeah, just make sure you're in a good headspace if you pick this one up. Alright, the next book is probably one of my favorite books that I've read all year, and I think it's gonna be another all-time favorite book, and that's Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi. And oh my god, I loved this book so much. I feel like I can't stop recommending it to everyone. Like, it's just so good. And I mean, technically this story more focuses on two sisters, so it's not a like necessarily romantic story, although there is some romance, some relationships in here. But I think why I'm grouping it in with the Sally Rooney theme is that, like, again, these sisters, like, the way the communication style of their relationship is just so fascinating, and I think similar kind of dialogue style to Sally Rooney, but in the context of siblings, which I just loved. And yeah, again, this one is a little bit, I would say, of a tearjerker. It's definitely got some heavy moments, but also some hilarious ones too, and I feel, especially if you have siblings, like, you should read this book because it so captures the sibling relationship, like, yeah, better than like a novel that I've read in like a really long time. And yeah, it's just such an impressive story, and I know that probably everyone has already heard of this book, but if you haven't read it, please do. But again, with this one, I think maybe look up the content warnings because it does deal with some heavy topics, but oh my god, so worth it, like so worth it. And I rarely ever like cry like when reading books, but I did tear up a little bit at the end, but I think it was slightly more happy tears, I don't even know, or just like relief. But yeah, no, this book, incredible, and I think if you love Sally Rooney, you will also love this. Okay, my last one I want to talk about is one that I read a while ago, but I still love it, so I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but I do still love it. And that's Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. And I feel like this one, I included it because I feel like it has an interesting representation of mental health, and also just a main character who, you know, she's trying her best, but she just makes really horrible decisions, and, you know, is kind of dealing with the repercussions of like failed relationships and just picking really crappy people to be in relationships with. And yeah, I don't know, but it was such an endearing story and an endearing main character that even though she made so many terrible decisions, you still kind of have to root for her anyways. But which is sort of why I like picked this for a Sally Rooney video, because a lot of times the characters do really dumb stuff and, like, you know, are not the greatest people, but, you know, they're still humans and we still have compassion towards them. And I feel like, yeah, that sort of sums up Queenie for me, at least. And also similar representation for, I know, like, mental health was a big thing in terms of Connell's character. But yeah, anyways, those are some books that I would recommend to people who love Sally Rooney, the Sally Rooney multiverse, if you will. I can't believe it's almost like a phenomenon, like its own genre now, but here we are. Anyways, hopefully you got some good reads for your TBR off of this. Oh, just a side note, I did start a little Instagram account for my writing and for talking about books, and so I'll put the I'll put a link to it or just the username or whatever in the description of this video. So if you want to check that out, that'd be awesome. And yeah, I'll hopefully be posting more book content on there too, so really excited to venture into the Bookstagram community instead of just watching. But yeah, anyways, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and I will see you soon, I guess. Bye.